Hi math students, this is our introduction video for our lesson on writing equations from graphs. The goal of this lesson is that if I give you a graph, you can write an equation to represent the graph. When writing linear equations, there's always going to be two things we need to know after looking at the graph. We're going to need the number that goes here in front of x, and we have learned that number is our slope. Since in this lesson we are using a graph to write our equation, remember to find slope, you're going to want to use rise over run. The other thing we need is the constant in our equation, so that's the number without x, and we have learned that that number always represents your y-intercept. So for example, we might have questions like these where you have a graph of a line and the directions are to write an equation to represent the graph. Like we said above, there's two things we're going to need to find out from the graph in order to write our equation. That is slope and y-intercept. So for example, on this first graph, before I write my equation, the two things I need are slope and y-intercept. And you can find them in whatever order you want. I'm going to start with y-intercept because usually for students that's a little easier. To find your y-intercept, you always go to your y-axis. So that's this line right here. And you are trying to find where the graphed line, so the red arrow line right here, and your y-axis where they intersect. For this graph, they intersect right here at the number 5. So my y-intercept would be a positive 5. For slope, that is what we did in the previous lesson where we used rise over run to help us find our slope. Remember, when you're finding slope from a graph, you are going to need 2 points on the line. I can use my y-intercept as one of the points, but I need a second point on the line. When you are looking, remember points that are close but not on the corner of the graph lines are no good. So for example, this point right here is no good because I need it to be on that corner. A point I do see though could be this point right here. And then using rise over run, I need to count those two directions. For my rise, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. And since we're going down 4, it would be negative 4. And then for my run, I'm going over 1, 2, 3 boxes. So my run is 3. So altogether, our slope would be the fraction negative 4 thirds. I can't simplify or divide that, so that's my final answer for slope. To write your equation, all we're doing is putting all of this together. We have learned that when you see equations, they always begin y equals, and then there are two numbers we are looking for. We've learned that the number in front of x that goes right here is always your slope, and then the other number that goes right here is your y-intercept. So my y-intercept we said is positive 5, so I would have plus 5 in my equation, and then since my slope is the fraction negative 4 thirds, in front of x, I put negative 4 thirds. And that's our equation. We've also seen that you might see that equation in a different order. So you could write y equals negative 4 thirds x plus 5. Or if you wanted, you could put that positive 5 first and then put your slope, the negative 4 thirds x, put that term second. Both of these are correct answers. I wanted to do that one as an example, and then the second graph I'm going to have you try. This graph should look familiar because we saw it in our introduction video for our lesson on finding slope. So if you look at those notes, you already have the slope from this graph. You just need to put it together with your y-intercept to write your equation. Pause the video now to try that problem, and then come back to see how you did. For this graph here, our y-intercept, well, our line crosses our y-axis right here at the number 8. So my y-intercept is 8. Our slope we had talked about in yesterday's lesson. When you look at the graph, notice it does go up 1 box and over 1 box, but here our rise is actually 4 because you're going from 8 to 12. So we need to go up 4 inches in height and then over 1 day. And 4 divided by 1 is 4. So our slope is 4. All together in our equation can start y equals, and you can put your slope first. Just remember, slope needs to have the x with it. So 4x plus 8. And that is your equation. And no, if you have y equals 8 plus 4x, that's also correct too. In today's lesson, I'm going to be giving you a lot of graphs, and you are going to write an equation to represent those graphs. Thanks so much for watching, and you are ready for today's lesson.